For the last 2 decades, I worked in archaeology and documented some of the most remarkable historical monuments around the world. And Central Asian medieval cities, Merv and Otrar, that you see here, are outstanding examples of that. These were among the largest settlements of their time, with very high population density and in a highly challenging landscapes, located in a highly challenging landscapes. They have not only endured for substantial durations of time, they also succeeded and thrived by using water, land in a very sustainable manner, and also by fostering very resilient communities. So documenting these types of a cultural heritage, now increasingly driven by technology, my other great passion. Field data collection now happens in unprecedented speed. We use laser scanners, unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones, to collect more and more data about archaeological sites around the world, about the landscapes that are considered to be cultural and historic landscapes. And we generate large quantities of high-quality data. Perhaps within a few weeks every year, I collect more data that I then spend time processing perhaps for the next year. And sometimes we deliberately collect data now with a focusing on the future that we don't have a capacity to process now, but we will be processing in the future. And both the volume and the quality of this material continues to improve as we increasingly combine different types of sensors, different types of approaches, and different types of equipment into this process. Yet, this is only one side of the heritage data collection. Often, these records are actually complementary to intensive archaeological investigations themselves. Across the globe, researchers generate a continuous stream of data, not only through artifact or site discovery, but also through lab-based techniques, lab-based analysis, such as radiocarbon dating, for example, or isotopic or DNA analysis. And the archaeobotanical and zooarchaeological data is added on to that process as well. And so this contributes to this increasingly rich collection of data about humanity's past. This builds a more and more detailed picture of the past. At a broader scale, also, the deep learning and the computer vision now enable artifact typology, but also identification of the sites, sometimes in the scale of huge territories, sometimes in the scales of continents. And these advancements are sometimes celebrated in a sensationalist headlines as well. So in general, we are now faster and more precise in recording the physical remains of the past, the ruins, the landscapes, the mounds. We in fact collect so much data now as part of the learning about the past that we often find ourselves in the place that are called data deluge. And there is a growing movement to make that heritage-related data linked and accessible, open as well. I'm part of the 10-year-long initiative, the Central Asian Archaeological Landscapes Project, where colleagues and I work to digitize, structure, and publish heritage-related data as an open access resource for doing more research. Here, monuments are not just points or polygons on a map, but are enriched with reports, archival materials, photographs, and drawings, all made machine-readable by enriching their metadata, making them accessible as well. And archaeology and the heritage are increasingly shaped by principles of FAIR, the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data. So working across the regions and across several disciplines, I actually came to realize that this is not a common practice in every discipline yet, in every area yet. But all of this unfolds against the backdrop of a series of interconnected global challenges. And there is no doubt in my mind that archaeological and heritage evidence holds significant potential to inform us, the modern humans, in meaningful ways on how to address these challenges. Some of this evidence, for example, speaks directly to the climate crisis, arguably the most pressing threat of our time. Understanding how past societies adapted to climatic and ecological shifts offer valuable insights ranging from food security to sustainable agriculture to resilient building practices, migration, and even things like social cohesion. Crucially, some of this knowledge is held by indigenous communities around the world, whose adaptive strategies reflect deep-rooted environmental understanding, deep-rooted historic understanding as well. And Heritage World learns from that area too. So, extending our perspective into archaeological timescale is already informing many fields, such as economics, for example, through long-term studies of inequality, and social sciences in general by exploring historical models of social organization, for example. In essence, we can build very complex narratives of change of landscapes, societies, ecosystems, grounded in the deep time of human experience. And that has a capacity to inform us about the challenges of today. But extracting and extrapolating the meaning is still a huge challenge. That knowledge, that data about the past, can be very fragmentary, very idiosyncratic, very contextual, very much dependent on the methodology or positionality of the person or groups who are collecting that data. So how does that knowledge lead to a new hypothesis right now? At present, it happens in the minds of the professionals or experts who are working on the field, who have spent decades developing an intimate understanding of particular sites, particular monuments, particular landscapes. It takes time and it takes a lot of effort as well. But now, relating this to modern day technology, in this age of artificial intelligence, is it natural to ask, could bringing that knowledge together be the perfect task for multimodal AI systems? The artificial intelligence systems capable of integrating information from different types, different sources, texts, images, maps, even sensor data. Could that help us connect the dots in ways that are simply beyond the reach of any one person or any one lifetime? Or perhaps not. So some colleagues argue that the way forward may actually be in harnessing the power of unimodal AI systems, the systems that work with a single type of data, a single mode of data. Take, for example, the vast repositories of textual data, textual material that we already have. Things like reports, observations, monument records, publications, a specialist knowledge and analysis written by generations of specialists, and in many languages as well. And unimodal approaches could be better in mining that text in a very clever ways in order to find those collections. But there is a broader issue I have been facing lately when I talk to my AI colleagues. The data we hold is still seen as a one data point. Even when digital and the machine readable, data and knowledge about the past and its remains are often irregular, hard to compare, and patchy, sometimes reduced to a single record across a long time scale. And this presents a clear challenge for existing AI models. There may be an abundance of heritage data, but it rarely follows neat patterns of collection or neat patterns of comparability. But is it actually a single data point? Evidently not. Any point, metaphorically, is contextualized within a broader system of information. So if we just take one area of that contextual data, the points and the polygons on the heritage map that we create are not only supported by different reports of excavations, but also with Earth observation satellite data. The data we started in 1960s and 70s are the very, very infrequent captures. But currently, as we all know, satellites generate vast amounts of data daily in different bands, resolutions, and designations. And this has been happening for a couple of decades at least now, covering the same landscapes over and over again, creating hugely valuable context for our single points. Some of that data is openly available, and the more are undoubtedly going to become available. Similarly, aerial photography has transitioned from infrequent captures in early 20th century to detailed and rather diverse collections today. Frequency of these layers in the recent past is helpful for us because actually environmental change also accelerated in the last few decades. There is also rich collection of the modern day data collected about the sites. Internet of Things sensors collecting and monitoring data from different historical monuments, watching structural changes as part of the heritage management strategies these days, enhancing our ability to detect damage and to address damage, to track changes. Analysis of historic fabric itself gives us important clues about the past environment and the human activity as well. And we do that as part of the conservation actions on most of our heritage sites today as well. So I would argue that we deal with multiple data points, but still in irregular frequencies, in uneven coverage, in divergent quality, formats, and the densities. On heritage side, so opening up more data would certainly support the integration of technologies, of AI in particular in this case, by covering some of the gaps that exist. However, my colleagues working with AI will also need to support this development, develop models capable of effectively reasoning with these types of data. Models are getting more capable and perhaps smarter as well, depending how we quantify smartness in this case. Perhaps an argument could be made that AGI, artificial general intelligence, would be the answer. New hypotheses or completely new insight may be too much to ask of current models, but could we anticipate the arrival of new models, potentially on a fundamentally new hardware or architecture, and develop approaches and the philosophies for that eventuality? Here, in parallel to those developments, a proactive engagement may be necessary. Can we introduce complex, divergent, data-driven questions into this process of developing new models by contributing our domain-specific knowledge? And it's not only my domain, but many other domains as well. As I highlighted earlier, incremental improvements in technology have greatly benefited heritage field over recent years in particular, but important to remember that these successes often rest on decades of deep theoretical and the methodological groundwork. Developing systems tailored to distinct features of disciplines and to analytical and the interpretive frameworks of those disciplines could significantly enhance the outcomes on this area. Methods for handling inherent data biases are important too, but also how about addressing the issues of bias in interpretation? The narratives about the past has this capacity of occasionally raising controversies. How do we make sure that AI models do not make that even more challenging, especially if we consider the unevenness of data around the world and the unevenness of access to the data as well? That's why the closer specialist collaborations are necessary, but also closer integration of theories, methods, philosophies, and the ethical norms is really important as well. So with all of this, the assumption here is that AI is not going to change the expertise. It is imagined as a collaborative tool, as a scientific tool, rather than an oracle as well. The aim is gaining assistance in synthesizing and digesting information, in identifying new potential or identifying new hypotheses. This isn't about making replacements. So doing all of it together will not only support the heritage and past, but also aid modern societies in dealing with completely modern new problems as well. So given the importance, given the significance of the societal implications, relying solely on AI predictions without understanding how or why they were made is always going to be difficult, especially when decisions involve future survival and sustainability. The black box problem that we know from hardware and the software implementations from elsewhere, when we don't really understand what's going on inside the mechanical parts of the processes. That exists here too. So two specific things to highlight in that aspect would be the emerging area of explainable AI that can help to build trust and transparency as well by offering clear and transparent explanations about the decisions made by algorithms. And the critical importance of prioritizing replaceability and the replicability of these AI approaches in a world already marked by digital inequalities. This event highlights themes of crossroads and survivability. Considering that, and considering the challenges and opportunities that I'm highlighting here, I frame my talk as a call to collaborative action to the colleagues gathered here, especially from AI side. With the possibility of something like AGI becoming increasingly tangible, we must reconsider fundamentals, particularly because we know that the insights from the past societies could help ensure our own survival today. This is not an attempt to promote learning about the past or sciences that study it, although that's indeed an exceptional aspiration. Historically, humans have not excelled at learning from the past, especially when it's presented through dense textbooks. So perhaps more targeted insights from our heritage will finally resonate when questions about our very own survival are addressed through transformative technologies using the knowledge about the past. Humans have faced many frontier risks, and now we imagine AI represents a new one as well. And AI work needs clear goals and the demonstrable outputs as well. That fall somewhere in the middle of those utopian expectations and the dystopian predictions. So finding some of the long-term outcomes that fit in between would be really ideal. And heritage, archaeology, and the past offers the capacity to create some demonstrable outputs that address the sustainability in a broader sense of that word. And it also shows that that outcome is not only preferable, but also intimately possible as well, overwhelmingly possible and a preferable route. Technology and AI is already enhancing our ability to discover, to conserve, to manage heritage. Now it may need to help with making much wider contributions in this area as well. So, considering the themes of today, ultimately I propose confronting complex scientific pursuit here with a straightforward question. Can our heritage and knowledge about the heritage and AI, this fusion of science, technology, engineering, and ethics, help us survive? If yes, can it also help us thrive? Thank you.